welcome back to my channel. Today what we are going to be going over is the 2020 presidential election if the People's Party were to field a candidate and run. So as of this moment, it is currently, the People's Party is unable to field a candidate as they were created a little bit after the filing deadlines in most states. In addition to that, they are a new political party founded. Not necessarily founded, but some prominent members would be Marianne Williamson, a former presidential candidate, Nina Turner, I believe the campaign manager or spokesperson for the Bernie Sanders campaign, Cornel West, another Bernie Sanders surrogate, and a bunch of other notable progressive Democrats. And with this, you can see a lot of the potential Democratic primary challengers, instead of challenging Democratic incumbents, they could just run on a completely different third party known as the People's Party. So, with them gaining a little bit of traction and potentially even fielding candidates in the 2022 2022 elections, and even maybe some state and local governments as well, looking to see if they actually were to field a candidate in a different type of scenario, we would kind of look at what that would be. So I have a feeling that if anything, they would pull more away from the Democrats than anything. However, their populist message, they are more populist progressives. They could take away from some of the Trump supporters that don't necessarily agree with Joe Biden on trade and foreign policy, but agree with Trump, even though they disagree with his actions. So they definitely could pull, in my opinion, potentially upwards of 10% of the vote. I do think that for the first time, them being into a presidential election, it is going to be very difficult for them to even go above the 5% threshold, as the Libertarian and Green Party candidates, despite fielding in the past pretty good candidates, they have not really been able to pass that. So, looking at the actual electoral map, I think that there would be a flurry of safe states. I think the state of Kansas would go safe. Most states, I think, would be safe. You do need to also understand that the Progressive Party would probably appeal to more Bernie-style Democrats. So states that Bernie Sanders won in the 2016 Democratic primaries and, polled well. I think that he could definitely, or the Progressive Party could probably do pretty well. I think the state of Montana would be likely, along with West Virginia, which is interesting because a lot of people think that West Virginia is a solid Republican state, but a lot of people forget to, take into account that West Virginia still has more registered Democrats than Republicans. And despite that fact, a lot of Democrats in the state of West Virginia vote Republican because either they dislike the Democrats running or some other reason. But I have a feeling that they might vote for the Progressive Party and narrow down Trump's margins. In addition to that, I think South Carolina would still be likely. Indiana, I could see being safe. Missouri would be likely. Most of Nebraska would just be safe. And yeah, looking onto the safe Democratic states, I don't think there would be too many. I actually think the state of Oregon would turn into being a likely state. I forgot about the state of Utah. I think that would be safe, even though Bernie Sanders did win the primaries here in both 2016 and 2020. I think Oregon would be safe. I think most states would probably be, pretty well. I think Connecticut would be likely, along with the state of Vermont, which again, the state of Vermont going to the Democratic candidate by 20, 30 points. Definitely being narrowed down because I think that they would definitely have a huge appeal in this state. Massachusetts being safe. DC, Maryland, Delaware, I think could be likely as well, and New Jersey safe. The state of Virginia, this is a difficult state to kind of predict, but I still think it would be likely, probably narrowing up from previously 11 points to maybe 6 or 7, but, things can obviously change. The state of Illinois, I think, would be safe as well, and Hawaii would also be safe. Now looking into the more competitive states, this is a little bit difficult. I think that the state of Minnesota would very narrowly go to Joe Biden. And I also think the state of Michigan would very narrowly go to Joe Biden as well. However, I think the states of Wisconsin and Pennsylvania would also very narrowly go to Donald Trump. In the states of Iowa and Ohio, I think this is when the People's Party, their nominee, would probably pull away most of the votes, and I think it would be likely in both of these states. I also think that I also think that Nebraska's second congressional district would be a lean margin for President Trump, and the state of Texas would probably move into the likely characterization, probably being, from my projected average between 3 to 4%. Trump winning, I think it would be moved upwards to 6 to 7. Looking into the remaining states, I think the People's Party nominee would probably help narrow up the state of Alaska in Joe Biden's favor, which is definitely interesting. I think that, with Gary Johnson pulling quite a bit of the vote back in 2016, Ralph Nader, I believe, also got 10% of the vote in one of his runs, which is pretty significant. They generally tend to support more third-party candidates, so I think that the state of Alaska would be in a lean margin. So, seeing this and then, West Virginia being likely and Iowa being on the same level, definitely a weird map, but this would be definitely a strange scenario and something for the history books. The state of Arizona, I think, would be lean for President Trump. I think the state of Nevada would be a tilt state for for Joe Biden. I think the state of Colorado would be lean. I think they would definitely pull out a lot of the vote in the state of Colorado. And I think the state of New Mexico would additionally be lean. I know it's a little strange seeing Colorado and New Mexico being, worse off for Joe Biden due to the margins compared to the state of, Virginia. But generally, I think that you do need to look at where the progressives are in the country. Looking at the states of Florida, Georgia, and North Carolina, I don't think the progressives would pull away too much in these states. However, they would pull, I think, just enough to make, Georgia likely, North Carolina lean, and Florida tilt red. When it comes to the final two states, I think the state of New Hampshire would be lean. Maine second congressional district in the first. I think Maine is definitely a state that the People's Party could potentially actually win a congressional district. Third parties also, like the state of Alaska, have fared pretty well in the past in Maine. However, I still don't see them winning it. I can see Maine second very narrowly going to President Trump. The People's Party nominee definitely splitting the votes there. However, Maine's first going likely to Joe Biden, and Maine at large going to a lean margin for Joe Biden. So, in this scenario, in the 2020 presidential election, if the People's Party nominee were to, send a candidate in this alternate scenario, they obviously can't, but Trump would win. And, this is very different to the map that I currently have with Joe Biden probably winning, likely winning over 300 electoral votes, in my opinion. But, definitely this would take a lot away from the Democrats, a little bit away from, Trump. But, definitely I think that the Democratic Party needs to rally up their progressive base before, they start, taking away votes and, creating third parties, because obviously they're not aligned with the interests of their party and, the new left wing of it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe, and thank you.